Hello, everyone. It's Jenna Ryan, your self-love life coach. I'm on a roll. I'm not stopping. I'm just not stopping. I'm going to go ahead and do another podcast today. And today's topic is attachment anxiety. Noticing, healing, attachment anxiety. I don't know why I've never spoken about this topic before. It has definitely been something that has been a part of my healing process, learning to be able to handle the attachment process. Handling the attachment process that can sometimes be difficult for those who have trauma in their past or who have abandonment issues or who suffered from neglect in their life. You can have what is considered to be anxious attachment style. There's that wonderful book. It's called Attached. I love that book. It was so good when I read it. It really validated a lot of my own issues. So let me look it up real fast. It's called Attached. While I'm doing that, I would like to welcome everyone to Self Love You. Welcome if you're a new viewer or listener. We've been here about 10 years. Welcome to all the people who've been here over the years, working on yourselves, learning to love yourself, and learning to recognize abusive behaviors in others, and just growing as individuals. The book I'm talking about is called Attached: The New Science of Adult Attachment and how it can help you find and keep love. We're not going to go into all of the different attachment styles today, because I think it's important to I think there's three main attachment styles. There's avoidant, there's anxious, and then anxious avoidant, and then disorganized. So there's four. We're not going to go into all of those today. Today, I really want to focus on attachment anxiety, which is more the attachment which displays itself when you're waiting on someone else to call, to respond, to find out if that girl likes you or that man likes you in a romantic relationship, or if you're accepted into that friend group. This is the process of attachment and the process of bonding that so many people have so much trouble with. I learned that, this is pretty common from TikTok. I already knew it was common for myself, but I learned it was common for other people as well. I thought I was the only one. Just kidding. When you hear girls talking about how they're strengthening their own process for dealing with that time of uncertainty in relationships, that new time when you're not sure if they're going to answer or not, and you're not sure if they're going to be interested or not, and you begin to just ruminate and wonder, and it creates anxiety. And this anxiety is not pretty. It creates a tunnel vision and an experience of anxiousness that's just not conducive to healthy relating. It doesn't make you attractive when you're all freaking out and you have to pretend to be someone you're not, or take your mind off of things, which are some of the tools for dealing with attachment anxiety. But before I get into that, I want to talk about attachment anxiety as a part of being insecure about yourself. So attachment anxiety, wondering if another person is going to give you that check mark, is going to tell you, yeah, you're okay, you're an okay person, and I'm going to reciprocate. Waiting on the other shoe to drop. That's what anxiety is about for attachment, because you feel like you're not good enough, you're not worthy, maybe you don't have the proper neural pathways for healthy, solid attachment. So instead of being cool as a cucumber or not worrying about it, you become preoccupied. And it all stems from childhood. If you read the book Attached, it'll tell you that when someone in childhood is not properly mirrored and properly attended to and attuned to, then they will grow up in adulthood and have anxious attachment style. Anxious attachment style is a maladaptive bonding style. It's not a healthy attachment. It's not a healthy way to attach. It doesn't feel healthy. It is scary, and it can feel like you're walking on the side of the mountain and you're about to fall off. It is pretty intense. And when you experience this anxiety, this is definitely leftover archaic feelings. These are not feelings of today. You may think they're feelings of today, but really it's just leftover feelings of anxiety that are showing themselves in a current relationship and causing you to be anxious about whether or not that person likes you. And it feels very catastrophic. The repercussions of them not liking you feel catastrophic, like you're just going to die. Not literally, but you know what I mean. Like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. And you have this tunnel vision, and you have this inability to see anything else but the one thing you want, and you're ruminating, and you're preoccupied, and these are all characteristics of anxious attachment style. And unfortunately, a person with anxious attachment style is generally attracted to someone with avoidant attachment style. How about that? How about that? It's such a good balance. Someone's running away, and then someone is anxiously trying to catch them. Or feeling that they're not worthy, and someone feels like they're so worthy they need to leave. That creates a push and pull. That creates a push and pull relationship, which ultimately is described in another book that I highly recommend. And it talks about fear of commitment. So the anxious attachment style, where you're overly preoccupied with the attachment, and this can be in anything. This can be relationships, friendships. You can have this overly anxious attachment style and actually sabotage your opportunity to be in a meaningful relationship and connection. And it can actually serve as a tool to keep you unattached, to keep you safe, so that you don't have to risk that very scary feeling of becoming attached. That is, if you have a wounded attachment system. So the book that would follow up to that would be the wonderful book called He's Scared, She's Scared. That was a good book. I read that a few times. And it talks about fear of relationships, intimacy fear of intimacy. He's scared, she's scared. So you're constantly seeking out people, relationships with people that are walking out the door, ignoring you, devaluing you, discarding you, and then you go through periods of anxious attachment. And if you don't experience anxious attachment, then you don't feel bonded properly. If you're not with someone that is avoidant, then you don't feel bonded. If you have someone who is healthy and securely attached to others and to themselves and able to securely attached, then that doesn't even feel good. Those are the ones you just throw out. They're the ones that want to go out, but you're like, nah. I'll take the avoidant one. Like a lot of girls say, I like the bad boy. And guys say, I like the bad girl, the one that's going to give me hell. And the reason I found that someone would go after someone that they can't really ever have, because they're always going to be avoidant and you can't really change that person, The reason that we do this is because of fear of connection, fear of commitment. It's commitment phobia. So here you are, anxious about attachment, not realizing that you're phobic about commitment. All in one experience. And all of this is all tangled up, and it's really it's a pile of poop. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff to process, to organize, to understand, and to heal from. They say that someone with anxious attachment style can become securely attached if they have someone who has secure attachment style. So if you have the anxious attachment style, if you can tolerate someone who is securely able to attach, if you can tolerate that, then your attachment style can heal through that relationship. And that's how we heal. We heal through relationships with others. So if you have anxious attachment style and you are able to connect with someone with secure attachment style, then you can be okay. It may be a little difficult at first, but eventually it works itself out. But if you are someone who has avoidant attachment style, it's going to be very hard to attach even to someone who is, it's going to be hard to attach to anyone, especially someone who's securely attached, because you have the tendency to flee the scene, run away, abandon your partner, doing something to cause the partner to be repulsed or to cause the partner to leave you or cause the partner to, or just want to leave them because you don't like them, discard them. That's what an avoidant person does. And technically, when you have attachment anxiety, you're also avoidant. They kind of are on the same spectrum, and they're both intimacy sabotage. It sabotages intimacy. So back to attachment anxiety, where you're waiting for the other foot to drop, where you're so afraid, and you put all of your energy, all of your power into whether or not this other person is responsive to you or not. And it causes a sense of anxiety. Some have it worse than others. I think it would be healthy to be a little anxious if you really like someone, but to be overly focused and to put all of your eggs in one basket and to allow your self-esteem to ride on whether or not someone likes you or not is very dangerous and oh so painful if that's how you choose or you continue or you're set up in your mind to be. The best way to be is a little bit flippant, a little bit devil may care, a lot focused on yourself and not focused on who's liking you and who's not. This all has to do with the things that you're telling yourself during the attachment process. The story that you're telling yourself, as well as the self-talk, how you talk to yourself. And in order to heal, it requires reparenting, and it requires really becoming conscious and attuning to your own emotions in the process of attachment. So if you experience yourself feeling anxious, and then you listen to the feeling and you say, where is that coming from? Why am I anxious? Oh yeah, I really like that girl I went out with or guy that I went out with, and I really want them to call me back, and they haven't called me back. I wonder if they like me or not. Maybe I wore the wrong clothes. Maybe they didn't like my glasses. Maybe I should have, bought the lobster, whatever it is. And you begin to question yourself, doubt yourself, and become extremely anxious. It's really a shame spiral. It's a toxic shame attached to attachment process. So the attachment anxiety you feel if you have anxious attachment style is actually toxic shame. It's not yours, it's not natural, it's not real, it's not necessary, it's not needed, but it is valid and it is occurring and you have to deal with it. And it's not easy. It's painful. But it is not yours. It doesn't compute. It is not logical. It's illogical. It's a fallacy. It's not true that if that person doesn't like you or want you or accept you, it's not true that it's the end of the world. It's not true that that person's acceptance will give you anything in terms of worth and value. You will not gain 1 ounce of worth if that person accepts you, and you won't lose 1 ounce of worth if that person rejects you, because we all have inherent worth. Worth it's not volatile. Your worth meter doesn't go up if somebody likes you and calls you, and it doesn't go down if they don't. Your worth stays stagnant. It stays the same regardless. So it's a fallacy to think that, oh my gosh, I'm worthless, or even worry or feel even anywhere near that if someone doesn't contact you or reciprocate your feelings or your desire. It's not really that big of a deal. It's not the end of the world if someone chooses not to choose you. It is okay. But for those of us who have the anxious attachment style, it becomes life-shattering. It is so excruciating. I mean, how can someone who is putting everything on the acceptance of another person, their whole entire self-worth, everything is riding on it, how can that not make you anxious? No wonder it makes someone anxious. No wonder some people have an anxious attachment style. Well, humans have to attach, and as children, we have to attach. And if you don't attach, you're going to die. So when you don't get proper attachment, when your attachment needs are not met, when you're little, when you're a child between ages 0 to 7, then you panic. You're panic-stricken. You could die. So that's where all the narcissism comes in, and the conditional love and the codependency, and you start to bend yourself like a pretzel and twist and become whatever you have to be to get that person to love you, so you don't have any anxiety, but you never quite get that itch scratched. The place that itches doesn't quite get scratched, so you're constantly becoming whatever you need to be so the other person will conditionally love you. And if you have this pattern of relating and relationship and attachment, then you're going to experience some intense anxiety out there. And it's enough to make you just want to run away and hide, because nobody wants to deal with all those archaic feelings. Love is fun, it's fresh, it's new, it's wonderful and beautiful. And it's unfortunate if this is the type of way you learned about attachment. And now, when you go to attach with anyone else, because of those patterns that have been inbred in you, that have been fostered in you, now you have anxiety, fearing rejection, fearing abandonment. Why? Because you were abandoned. You don't just feel anxious anxiety, attachment anxiety for no reason. If you feel attachment anxiety, there is something underneath that. Somewhere, somehow, you were abandoned in some way, which means you were not validated, you were not mirrored, you didn't get the proper attunement, whatever. It's all very important. But somewhere along the line, those very core things were not done. You didn't meet those milestones. You couldn't. Someone else had to meet them for you, and they were unable. And if they were unable, all that goes in its place is shame, toxic shame. Again, Toxic shame rears its ugly head, which is where you take the blame for the need not being met. So when you have attachment anxiety, that's basically you taking the blame again and again and again every time you attach or bond with another person in a meaningful way. And so one of the ways to heal this very difficult problem is to notice when you feel the anxiety, notice yourself as you are going into any kind of shame spiral and you're beginning to go into that deep feeling of, I'm not good enough, my whole, everything is riding on this. Or even the fantasy of, oh my goodness, if this person chooses me, I'm going to be running in a field of lilies. I'm going to be running through a field of flowers. I'm going to be running in a field of wildflowers if they just love me. If they just love me. If they finally love me, I will be running in a field of flowers. That's how we feel. It's this fantasy. It's this Pollyanna. It's this, if they just love me, then I can have everything, all the love I've never gotten, everything I've ever needed. And then what happens? Then you come back down to anxiety because that's a fantasy. That's not real. So you either go into fantasy and that creates anxiety, or you go into the opposite, which is a tunnel all the way down to, I'm not worthy. They don't love me. I'm not worthy. They don't want me. I'm not worthy. And you just left 5 minutes ago. I'm just kidding. But no time has gone by and you're just automatically really overthinking things. But I don't want to say overthinking in terms of, shameful way, because I think this is just a natural reaction to someone who's been abandoned and has some needs that they need to have met and needs to build trust. So it's not like stop overthinking. I hate it when people say that. Don't overthink. I just think that is the biggest insult. I don't know why. I don't like it. But I think it's important to think about, okay, I'm anxious. Why am I anxious? And to ask yourself those questions. What story am I telling myself? And then answering that, getting to a dialogue within of listening to the tapes that are playing over and over. Why am I feeling it? And then you might have an answer. Sometimes you might not know what the answer is, and you might be like, I don't know, I need to go journal or something. But then as you get to know yourself, you may find, oh, I'm anxious because I'm involved in a process of building an attachment with someone, and there's an open conduit. There's an open gestalt. There's an open door, and it hasn't been closed, and I have no idea, and I'm sitting here in the unknown land, and I like this person, but I don't know if they like me. They might not. What if they don't? Oh my gosh. What if they don't? What does that mean? That means blah, 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 blah. Does your mind think like that? Because mine does. So basically, I hate saying that. I gotta quit saying that. So you have this anxiety and asking yourself, okay, well, maybe they don't like you. What's the worst thing that can happen? They don't like you? Well, that may be a bummer because you like them, and darn, you were really hoping that things would proceed. However, a bird's eye view of life, looking at the whole big picture and not just that one little area, if you kind of take a step back and incorporate all the things that are available to you in your life and all the options, this person is not the only fish in the sea. And if they are, then there's other options for attachment. I mean, there's other opportunities. There's other avenues. There's open doors. There's tomorrow. There's the next day. This is not your last shot. And whenever you have such an anxious experience, when you're attaching, it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it actually blocks attachment. And what happens? Then your neural pathways for abandonment or rejection become stronger and stronger because you keep recreating the original trauma, the original attachment wound. You keep recreating it through the anxiety. So you never really give yourself a chance to attach in a healthy, secure way. So how do you heal this attachment anxiety? It's very important to heal. You either get really lucky and blessed and find someone who has a secure attachment that you can learn from and kind of allow them to lead you and guide you, and who helps you feel secure. You can play a game for the rest of your life and say, I'm always anxious. I need to follow you. I need to follow you on your phone. I need to have that app so I can follow you everywhere because I'm anxious, and make excuses for your anxiety. Or you can begin to heal on your own even, and begin to say, what is the worst thing in the world that would happen if this person doesn't like me? Guess what? It would not be fun, but I'm not going to take that personally. There could be any number of reasons why this person is not reciprocating my advances or my bids for connection. Any number of reasons. They could be busy. I could remind them of their ex-girlfriend. They could be having a bad day. They may feel unworthy themselves and they're projecting stuff onto you. They may have a girlfriend. They may have someone else. Hanging out with you may have made them realize what they really want, and they know what they want is not you. And who wants somebody that doesn't want them? Nobody. So no amount of anxiety in the world is going to make what is for you come to you. It's going to repel anything that's for you away. But do not despair, because you can heal, and you can remind yourself that tomorrow is another day, and there's so many things that are wonderful. It makes me think of the quantum theory of whenever you look at something, like nothing exists until you look at it. When it gets down to the atom level in quantum physics, nothing, like they've determined that the reason something exists is because you're looking at it. But when you turn your head, it's not actually existing. And I'm no quantum physicist. I just find that fascinating because it equates in emotions and psychology, which I'm very interested in and I love, and healing, because it's the same thing. If you look at something anxiously, that's all you're going to get on the other side. You're not going to have that peace and that ease and that reciprocity and that feeling of equal worthiness. No person can give you worth. No person is going to run away with you into the wilderness, run off into the sunset, and cause you to be worthy suddenly. That person is not coming. No one can save you but yourself. And you've got to realize and learn that there's nobody in the world, except maybe, let's just talk about in the beginning of a relationship, or I don't know. It just depends. But nobody can give you any value. You're already fully validated, valuable, you got it all already. So you can't get it outside. So if you are trying to perform the logical fallacy of getting that other person to like you in order to alleviate your anxiety or improve your sense of self-worth, then you are putting your self-worth externally. And you're looking at it and it's actually pushing it away. And Abraham Hicks, it's like the energetic thing. Very energetic oriented. Those are my dogs. They're hungry. They're ready to eat. But I was just doing this talk for you guys. Am I doing these too long? I don't know if it's I don't know if YouTube, one sec. I don't know if I'm doing these too long or if this is a good length. If you like this length, I have extended the length by about 10 minutes or more on my podcast. Let me know if you like that length and if it's covered to your satisfaction, if you feel satisfied with the content and if you're getting value out of it. So yeah, anxious attachment, when you just really freak out, and really it becomes important to remind yourself that no one can give you any value outside, and that if that other person does not accept you, want you, that you are going to be okay, that you will survive, that you're not going to die, and you don't revert back to whatever archaic feelings you had when you very likely could have died had you not been attached properly, which is in childhood. But you're not a child anymore. You have resources, you have options, and maybe it'll happen. And you don't have to know. You get to just watch it and let things unfold rather than keeping a really keen eye on it like, a starving kitten with tuna. You can be very, chillax, relax, whippity poop, and, deal with disappointment. Oh, they didn't like me. Instead of putting that in the bucket of, oh, they didn't like me, I suck, I'm the most horrible person, you're like, oh, they didn't like me. Oh, well, they're missing a good thing. I'm just going to trust God that is the best for me. Because I know I'm the schnizzle. I'm the bomb.com, so it doesn't really have anything to do with that. So, that's okay. They don't have to love me. They don't have to like me. And I'm okay with that. And that's how you just have to talk to yourself. And then you go, okay, I think I'll go exercise or cook or read a book. And just whatever it takes to get out of that anxious mind, that patterning of feeling crazy anxiety over whether another person is down for hanging out or not. Okay, that's it for today. This is Jenna Ryan. Self-love you. I hope you like the talk. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.